Dirtle Magic. Thank you for tuning in to Dirtle Magic. Please subscribe and hit that notification bell if you like the content you see here today, and leave a like and share the video with someone you might think is interested. Leaving those likes really helps us out, but another way to help us out is by using our TCG Player affiliate link below. If you're looking for singles, sealed product, or gaming accessories, please consider using our link to support the channel. We also have some playmats at inkgaming.com. Go ahead and hit the link in the description to check those out. Alright, let's grab some spells and dirtle with some magic. Hello and welcome back to Dirtle Magic. Today we have the deck tech for Dina the Soul Steeper. No combos though. This deck is going to depend on a number of high synergies so we can drain our opponents and use other effects. First, let's go over the commander. Dina Soul Steeper is black-green for a legendary 1/3 Dryad Druid. Whenever we gain life, each opponent loses 1 life, and 1, sacrifice another creature. She gets X0 till end of turn, where X is the sacrificed creature's power. So here we're going to be focusing on that first ability. Whenever we gain life, our opponents lose 1 life, and it cares about the number of times we gain life, not so much the quantity. The second ability does come into play occasionally, especially with things like Blood Artist, but we'll get into that later. Let's go ahead and take a look at the categories we'll be covering today. The categories we'll be covering today are teas, tonics, potions, and poisons. First up we have teas, which is essentially our ramp. Let's go into the forest, look for some lands, herbs, and other things, and dump them into the concoction. First up, we have classic cards Rampant Growth, Cultivate, and Kodama's Reach. Each of these cards lets us get our land out of our deck and put it onto the battlefield tapped. Unfortunately, Rampant Growth does not get us a second land, but Cultivate and Kodama's Reach do. Those lands go to our hands, however, and if we haven't made a land play this turn, we can go ahead and play those from our hand. Some creatures that can help us get lands out of our deck are Secure Tribe Elder and Springbloom Druid. Secure Tribe Elder has to sacrifice itself. It puts a basic land card from our deck onto the battlefield tapped. Springbloom Druid sacrifices a land and not itself, but we get 2 lands for that. Solemn Simulacrum, also known as Sad Robot, when it comes into play, it also does a Rampant Growth type of effect, getting us a basic land card from our deck to the battlefield tapped. In addition to this, when it dies, we also get to draw a card, so it's very good to just have as random sack fodder on the board. Some other land search that has a little bit more utility for us instead of just getting lands, including Solid Robot, is Migration's Path, which can be cycled for 2 mana so we can discard this card to draw a card. Evolution Charm, which can recur a creature from our graveyard back to our hand, and we can give something flying until end of turn, which is a good form of evasion. And Death Sprout, which itself is a kill spell plus land search stapled onto it, and it's murder and rampant growth. I just like to call it rampant murder. Next up is tonics, which is essentially our removal. If we have something that ails us, we have the answer. Let's go take a look. Up first we have Nature's Claim. Destroy target artifact or enchantment at instant speed. The opponent does gain 4 life, but in EDH, that's not so bad, and this spell only costs 1 mana. Then we have Ravenous Chupacabra, comes into play and destroys target creature an opponent controls. Crow's Grip, artifact or enchantment, but has split second, so almost nothing can happen to it while on the stack, although special actions do count like Morph. Reclamation Sage, into play, destroys target artifact or enchantment, and then we have Beast Within, a good catch-all answer to just about everything, of course unless it's indestructible. It does give your opponent a 3/3 beast creature token though, so do be careful with it. Sometimes that 3 damage can make all the difference. For large amounts of troublesome things, we start with Golgari Charm, which can give all creatures -1/-1 till end of turn, destroy target enchantment, or regenerate each creature we control, saving ourselves from most kinds of board wipes. Maelstrom Pulse will destroy target non-land permanent and all their permanents that share a name with that permanent. Pretty good against clones, actually. Blood on the Snow, while we don't have any snow lands in the deck, you could add them to get the extra effect of recurring a creature or planeswalker with the mana cost X from your to the battlefield equal to the amount of snow mana spent for the spell, but it's in here mostly to destroy either all creatures or all planeswalkers. Culling Ritual will destroy each permanent with the mana value 2 or less and give us black and green mana in any combination to our mana pool. based on how many of those things were destroyed. I do recommend that you try to at least destroy 4 things so the spell can be refunded. It's also sorcery speed. Your mileage may vary. Gaze of Grant is excellent flexible removal, but it does destroy each non-land permanent, but that's planeswalkers, tokens, artifacts, enchantments, anything you really need gone. Is a bit mana intensive though. If you played almost any game, there's bound to be some potions, and in this deck that is the life gain, which helps trigger our commander and various other effects, but let's take a look at the kinds of life gain sources we have in the deck. First up, we have some efficient effects. Fountain Renewal for 1 is an artifact. At the beginning of our upkeep, we simply gain 1 life, triggering our commander and some other effects. We can also pay 3 to sacrifice this to draw a card. Pristine Talisman for 3 is an artifact that gives us mana and an additional 1 life every time we tap it for mana. Essence Warden, one of the better life gain instances in the deck. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, we simply gain 1 life. That's both ours and our opponent's. Courser of Crewfix lets us play the top card of our library revealed. We may play the top card of our library if it's a land card, and whenever a land card enters the battlefield under our control, we gain 1 life, thereby triggering more effects. Additional life gain effects in the deck are Witherbloom Apprentice with Magecraft. Whenever we cast an instant or sorcery spell, we drain our opponents for 1 and gain 1 life. Gifted Atherborn and Vampire Nighthawk both have Death Touch and Lifelink. Vampire Nighthawk also has the addition of flying, making it good on the offense and the defense. Ikra Siddiqui the Usurper has Menace, and whenever one of our creatures deal combat damage to a player, we gain life equal to that creature's toughness. And we have Valentin, Dean of the Vein, Menace and Lifelink. Whenever a non-token creature on our opponent's side would die, we may pay 2. If we do, we get a pest creature token that when it dies, we gain 1 life. Not only when their creatures die can we pay for that, but it also exiles the creatures that die under our opponent's control. And don't forget the backside of the card. Lisette, Dina of the Root, whenever we gain life, we may pay 1. If we do, we put 1/1 counter on each creature we control, and those creatures gain trample until end of turn, increasing the size of our lifelinkers, which is always pretty good, along with Ikra Siddiqui. 2 other cards I want to mention are Shamanic Revelation and Scavenging Ooze. Shamanic Revelation draws us a card for each creature we control, and as long as we control a creature with power 4 or greater, we gain 4 life for each creature that has power 4 or greater. Scavenging Ooze for green exiles a card from the graveyard. If it's a creature card, we put a 1/1 counter on the ooze and gain 1 life, so a little bit of graveyard control and triggering our effects. Next up, we have Poisons. Let's drain our opponent's life away 1 drop at a time. The best brews are the ones that are slow going. To drain our opponent's life away, we have the usual suspects. Blood Artist and Zulaport Cutthroat both say when another creature dies, either at all or one we control, target player loses 1 life and we gain 1 life for the Blood Artist, or each opponent loses 1 life and we gain 1 life for the Zulaport Cutthroat. Notably, the Blood Artist says whenever another creature dies, so any at all, Zulaport Cutthroat, it has to be one of our creatures. Similar in fashion, Volcanwrath Noble, flying 2/2 for 4 mana. Whenever it or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So we do have to get a lot of that stuff rolling around, or just use a mass board wipe. Bastion of Remembrance is very resilient being an enchantment. 2 black, when it comes into play, we get a creature just because it's a human soldier, that's a 1/1. Whenever a creature we control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and we gain 1 life, so it's more akin to Zulaport Cutthroat. There's also a number of creatures similar to our commander in the deck. Vito, Throne of the Dusk Rose, says whenever we gain life, target opponent loses that much life. So only 1 opponent at the time, but if we gain a large chunk of life, it allows us to hit them for even more. It can also give our creatures lifelink until the end of the turn. Epicure of Blood and Marauding Blight Priest do something very similar to our commander, and as a matter of fact, it's the exact same text. Whenever we gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. So good backups for our commander, or just even on the battlefield along with her. Some other good mass effects we can include in the deck is Sir Conrad the Grim. Whenever a creature dies, is put into a graveyard from anywhere else, or leaves the graveyard, this deals 1 damage to each opponent, and with that damage instead of life loss, giving Sir Conrad lifelink is very good in this deck. He can also just mill each player for a card for 1 in black, triggering himself most of the time. Sangromancer is pretty good. If it's a flyer, 3/3 for 4, but whenever an opponent's creature dies, we gain 3 life, triggering all of our effects, and maybe work in some discard for whenever an opponent discards a card, we gain 3 life, triggering our effects. Pontiff of Blight, 2/7, so it works really well with Ikra Siddiqui. Costs 6 mana, but gives all of our creatures Extort, and itself has Extort, which means whenever we cast anything, each one of those triggers we can pay white or black for, and start draining our opponents. We only pay black in this deck because we are green-black, and Extort is reminder text, so it can fit into the color identity of our commander. And to really drive that point home, at the end of everything, we have Erebos, God of the Dead, and Wound Reflection. Erebos stops our opponents from gaining any kind of life, and we can pump any life we gain into some card draw. It's also a hard to remove enchantment creature, which has Indestructible. Wound Reflection is a very simple effect. At the beginning of each end step, each opponent loses life equal to the life they lost this turn, doubling our life loss and any incidental damage our opponents do to each other. And that does it for this deck tech featuring Dina with no combos. If you want to check out the deck in its entirety, there's a link in the description below, and you can let me know what you think about that deck in the comments. I think the deck would be more powerful with the combos because you can win faster, but I did want to try to avoid all that stuff and just use cards with a lot of synergy. If you build it differently and you found something else to utilize that second ability better, you can also let me know about that. I hope you enjoyed this series, and if you haven't caught this series, go ahead into the description below. There's links to the games, plus you can always go to the main Dirtle MTG playlist on our page. Until the next Strixhaven Commander, stay safe out there.